Hi, I'm natekokernot. Welcome to my channel. I'm currently working through a series on correcting some of our most basic assumptions about what perception is. Today, I'm honing in on the fundamental idea that has been taught to us for thousands of years now by mystics of every spiritual tradition, that perception is projection, not sometimes, all the time. Many of us think about projection as something the mentally ill do, but I'm suggesting that we all naturally see what we have projected, and the more we accept this fact about ourselves, the more emotionally stable we become. So perhaps I can grant that the more mentally ill one is, the less willing they are to accept the fact that they're projecting. In my last video, I walked through a thought experiment. I mentioned how some of the social phenomena that are most aggravating to all of us, and which are at least partially responsible for the increasing polarization which has now culminated in the chaotic time we presently find ourselves in. They were all sourced from this 1-2 punch. The first punch being the fact that perception is projection, and the second punch being that we're not willing to admit it. The phenomena that I laid at the door of this collective confusion include confirmation bias, the snowball effect, the echo chamber, and finally postmodernist thinking. These phenomena, I'm suggesting, are like a natural set of dominoes that have fallen, quite naturally, as an effect of the fundamental confusion that most of us share. If we can admit to ourselves that we're not seeing the world around us as it actually exists, but instead we're seeing a projection of our unconscious belief systems about what the world is, a few other insights will naturally occur to us. We won't feel the need to defend our perceptions of the world. We won't feel the need to be right. We will be more open-minded and more willing to learn from other people who have had experiences different from our own. Secondly, we will naturally become more accountable of our perceptions. If perception is indeed projection, then it follows logically that we can only judge ourselves, since the images that we project are our own creations. This is where Jungian shadow work enters the scene. Jungian shadow work is the brutally honest work of mining the depths of one's own unconscious belief system and sorting out what's true in there from what's not true in there. If we are perceiving things wrong, we're going to respond to them wrong. Our response could be identified as our reactionary behavior. I always go to the classic analogy of mistaking a garden hose for a snake. Leaping back in fear as we pass a garden hose is not technically appropriate behavior to the circumstances, but the mistake wasn't a behavioral mistake so much as a perceptual mistake. A Course in Miracles insists that we can only do harm upon ourselves, that nothing outside of us can cause us pain. This is true if everything outside of us, at least as we perceive it, is a projection or a reflection of our own unconscious belief system. So taking accountability for our misperceptions is actually a lot more conducive to our healing than just taking accountability for our behaviors, because our misperception is the root cause of our mistaken behaviors. So what evidence do I have that perception is projection? Historically speaking, the Hermeticists are the earliest example that I'm aware of. The correct date for when Hermes Trismegistus was alive on this earth are not clear to an armchair historian like myself. He was part mythical figure. The Greek god Hermes is apparently based, at least in part, on this historical figure. What's clear is that he lived before Jesus Christ, perhaps several centuries before Christ. The first Hermetic principle, anyways, is mentalism, or the idea that consciousness creates our life experience. The universe is immaterial, it's mental and spiritual. The rest of the 7 Hermetic principles all stand on the foundation of this first one. Plato's cave allegory is another example of an early teaching that perception is projection. And since his allegory involves shadows dancing on the wall of a cave, it's easy here to draw comparisons between his teachings and Jung's shadow work. Jesus himself was teaching this same truth in his ministry, although he spoke mostly in parables, so some of his symbolism must not have broken through to his students' understanding. But when Jesus spoke of the kingdom of heaven, he was speaking of the present, not the future. He was trying to convey to people then that the world we see is just a veil thrown over heaven, and that the awareness that heaven is here now, despite the projected appearances to the contrary, is our salvation. One thing that is clear to students of A Course in Miracles is that Jesus is saying the same in plain English in the pages of that book. One example from the section of the text I read today reads as follows, quote, "The secret of salvation is but this, that you are doing this unto yourself. No matter what the form of the attack, this still is true. Whoever takes the role of enemy and of attacker, still is this the truth. Whatever seems to be the cause of any pain and suffering you feel, this is still true. For you would not react at all to figures in a dream you knew that you were dreaming. Let them be as hateful and as vicious as they may, they could have no effect on you unless you fail to recognize it is your dream. This single lesson learned will set you free from suffering, whatever form it takes." End quote. Now it appears that our most modern form of truth-seeking, science, is also saying the same thing. And that is what most of the videos that precede this one in the Perception playlist are pointing at. You can find the rest of those videos by visiting the channel and clicking on playlists. So if each and every one of us is projecting our unconscious belief system onto the world, what's the causative difference between experiences of suffering and experiences which we would call joyful? The basic answer to that question is where on the spectrum of love and fear our present state of mind is. The terminology is different in ACIM. If we are projecting from love, it's given the name extending, whereas if we're projecting from fear, it's just called projecting. The mechanics are the same either way, only the form is different depending on the content of our thinking. The way we gain some control over our internal state is by guarding our mind from fear-based thoughts, which, if we boil them down to their core, are really just thoughts which are premised on the idea of separation. In my next video, I'll dive into the subject of love and fear more deeply by explaining the Genesis story embedded in A Course in Miracles. To give you a teaser, it's called The Tiny Mad Idea. If you're finding these ideas helpful or just intriguing, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, leave any comments below. I appreciate all the feedback I get, whether you agree or not with what I'm saying. Thanks for watching today and have a wonderful day. I'll see you again soon.